और बहनों, मुझे दुख है और सुख भी है कहते हुए कि कल रात में मैं नींद नहीं कर सकूंगा।
Right from the very beginning of his public life, Gandhi considered that the kind of change that he was seeking to establish could be possible only taking a creative and revolutionary look at education. Restructuring of education occupied later an important stage in Gandhiji's scheme of things. To Gandhiji, education was the real tool of change. Gandhiji had a very, if I can use the expression, pet notion, that is, the change should begin right at the individual. In that famous sentence of Gandhi about education, it should enable the drawing out of the best out of the child. He should give the child what the child wants for his life. And he did not want education to be competitive. He wanted education to be creative, education as a tool to discover oneself and relate oneself to nature and fellow human beings. That is why he insisted on many things. He insisted on a corporate living. He insisted on a community living. He insisted on a kind of life where the child learns not the 3 R's, but the 3 H. Gandhiji gave importance to that. The head, the hand, and the heart. One feels with the heart, one works with the hand, and one thinks with the head. So it was an integrated approach which Gandhiji emphasized, for which he thought there should be crafts, there should be art, there should be arithmetic, there should be language, there should be philosophy, but then all these things should be as part of his overall efforts to learn what is in nature. So the Gandhian vision of education, where the learner becomes the producer, the learner becomes, what one might say, the custodian of a new society which is developing on the profound awareness that man has to live in harmony with nature. This has been the core of the Gandhian vision of education.
Gandhiji said, "The ordinary meaning of education is a knowledge of letters. The foundation that Macaulay laid of education has enslaved us. It has never improved the children of the farmers of this country. By this education, are we trying to make them discontented with their lot and their little cottages? Then they do not need such an education." Let us see how was Gandhiji as a teacher and what did he teach.
गांधी जी ने ये कहा कि वो एक क्लास लेना चाहेंगे कि कैसे तालीमी संघ, तालीम के द्वारा ही, बुनियादी तालीम के द्वारा ही हम सब कुछ पाठ पढ़ा सकते हैं। मैं भी उनकी उस कक्षा में शामिल हुआ। गांधी जी चरखा चला रहे थे। गांधी जी ने कहा, हम लोगों से पूछा कि तुम ये सूत देख रहे हो, चरखे से निकल रहा है। सूत कपास से बनता है। कपास की पैदावार कहाँ कहाँ होती है, अपने देश में कहाँ कहाँ होती है, उसके उत्तर भी दिए उन्होंने। विदेश में कहाँ कहाँ होती है, सबसे अच्छी कपास कहाँ होती थी, मालूम हुआ कि इजिप्ट में, मिस्र में होती थी। और मिस्र में ही सबसे पहले सूत काटने का रिवाज पड़ा। उनके यहाँ जो 3-3 साढ़े 3 हजार बरस पुरानी मम्मियाँ मिली हैं, उस पर जो कपड़े से आवाज उनको लपेटा गया था, वो सारा कपड़ा सूत का बना हुआ था। और वो सूत मिस्री लोगों ने ही काटा था, उन्होंने ही कपड़े बुने थे। तो मिस्र में ये सूत कराए। फिर मम्मी की रक्षा वो कैसे करते थे, क्या क्या केमिकल उसमें इस्तेमाल करते थे, जो इस तरह के केमिकल, रसायन की क्रियाएं कैसी हैं और रसायन का हम किस तरह उपयोग कर सकते हैं, क्या क्या उससे बन सकता है। साबुन उससे बन सकता है, उससे और चीज़ें बन सकती हैं, हमारी दवाएं उससे बन सकती हैं जो रोगों के काम आ सकें। और हमारे यहाँ तो जो आप देख रहे हैं ऊपर, नीम का पेड़ है, इसकी कितनी उपयोगिता है दवा के लिहाज से और दूसरी चीज़ों के लिहाज से। ये कहाँ दूसरे देशों में कहाँ मिलते हैं, कहाँ नहीं मिलते हैं, लेकिन हमारे देश में तो ये एक बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है। एक ऐसा डॉक्टर है, ये तो इसका कोई प्रश्न ही नहीं उठता कि इससे सस्ता डॉक्टर कोई और हो सकता है। तो उन्होंने एक चरखे के सूत से जो शुरू किया, तो पूरा भूगोल, केमिस्ट्री और कैसे कपड़ा बुना जाता है, टेक्सटाइल, कितने मिल अपने यहाँ हैं भारत में, कितना कपड़ा वहाँ तैयार होता है, कितने मजदूर वहाँ काम करते हैं। तो इसका अर्थ ये हुआ कि जो मिलों में की इंडस्ट्री में जो लोग मजदूर लगे हुए हैं, उनसे 10 गुना ज़्यादा हम चरखे के द्वारा उनको देते हैं। और इतने बहुत से लोगों को काम मिल जाता है कि जो न सिर्फ काम ही करते हैं, आमदनी उनको होती है, आर्थिक लाभ होता है, बल्कि उस आर्थिक लाभ के साथ साथ वो स्वराज की लड़ाई के लिए भी तैयार रहते हैं। इस तरह से उन्होंने तालीमी, बुनियादी तालीम को एक ऐसा स्वरूप दिया कि जिसके भीतर सभी रचनात्मक कामों का समावेश हो जाता है।
Nai Talim or new education did not suddenly emerge from Gandhiji's brain in 1937, but it was the outcome of long years of sustained thought and experience. In 1921 he wrote, "My experience has proved to my satisfaction that literary training by itself adds not an inch to one's moral height and that character building is independent of literary training. I am firmly of the opinion that the government schools have unmanned us, rendered us helpless and godless. They have filled us with discontent, made us despondent. They have made us what we were intended to become, clerks and interpreters. Higher education makes us foreigners in our own country and the primary education becomes almost useless." Thus said Gandhiji then, and now let us meet a group of engineers and enthusiasts in the field of construction who are re-educating themselves in the Center of Science for Villages, Gopuri, to make the education useful to the land and its people.
तो आपको जो इंजीनियरिंग डिप्लोमा को बाकी वो जो पढ़ाई, जो आधुनिक जो पढ़ाई चल रही है, उसमें तो रूरल हाउसिंग के बारे में, मड हाउसिंग के बारे में वैसे कुछ भी नहीं है।
नहीं, वो मड हाउसिंग की, मड ब्लॉक के बारे में कुछ नहीं, क्योंकि ISI जो स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ ब्रिक जो होती है, तो इसी बारे में और सब RCC बारे में यही सब चीज़ उसी सिखाई देती है।
आपको अभी कैसे लगता है कि ये इंजीनियरिंग का सब्जेक्ट में क्लासेस में ये मड हाउसिंग के बारे में भी क्लासेस होना चाहिए कि नहीं?
नहीं, होना चाहिए जरूर, क्योंकि हम ये सिखाते हैं कि ये अच्छा मुझे सबसे खर्चा कमी है, और जो हमारे काम गरीब लोगों के हम काम करते हैं ना, उसमें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा उसका फायदा हो चुका है।
Gandhiji says, "There is neither originality nor naturalness about the conventional education. It need not at all be original if it would only be aboriginal.
What is happening today in the present system of education, we are creating two classes of people. One, the intellectual who have read, who have studied, who have got degrees, etc., who are becoming away from the villages, from the people. They become a class themselves. Gandhiji therefore wanted that every education, every school must be such as would have some practical application, and they must be associated with the work of the village and other things. So a part of it would be intellectual exercise, and part of it actual in practice, how it could be done. That way, this distinction between classes in the education society would be removed.
Gandhiji wrote in Young India in 1929, "When our children are admitted to schools, they need not slate and pencils and books, but simple tools which they can handle freely and even remuneratively to explore nature. They would learn manners, lessons in practical sanitation and hygiene, all of which they would take to their homes, in which they would become silent revolutionists." This means a revolution in educational methods to make the children better citizens. But nothing short of a revolution can put education within reach of every child of school-going age. The scheme I am adumbrating does not exclude literary training. Side by side with vocational training, the children would be receiving knowledge on all other subjects.
जब उन्होंने 1937 में बेसिक एजुकेशन की स्कीम बनाई तो उसमें एजुकेशनल एक्सपर्ट्स को बुलाया। डॉक्टर जाकिर हुसैन उस कमेटी के समिति के चेयरमैन थे जिन्होंने ये स्कीम बनाई थी। तो गांधी जी का जो भी हर किस्म का विचारधारा होती थी उसको सोच सोच कर उसमें सुधारना, उसको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लाभदायक बनाना, रिसर्च करनी, ये उनका एक नियम था। तो आप देखेंगे कि जैसे न्यूट्रिशन है, गांधी जी ने 1936 में जो सेवाग्राम में थे कि गांव में लोगों को खाना क्या होना चाहिए, उस पे उन्होंने उसके खेती में कौन सा फर्टिलाइज़र होना चाहिए तो खुद पढ़ते थे। अपनी अखबारों में अपने लोगों की चिट्ठियाँ आती थीं, लेख छपते थे। तो वो साइंटिफिक अप्रोच थी, एक्सपेरिमेंटल अप्रोच थी उनकी हर चीज़ पर।
Gandhiji insisted on a system of education which is required in village surroundings. As in the case of other constructive programs, he drew the philosophy of Nai Talim from the true village life of India. These women from different villages in Madurai, Tamil Nadu, are training themselves to make them well equipped for the creative education of the rural children in their areas. In the Gandhian system of education, civil engineering is no more a white-collar profession, but it is basically construction of huts and rural houses for the villagers in India. In the Rural Technology Institute Gandhigram, the engineering students get trained in different aspects of rural housing by practical involvement both in the construction and in the life in the surrounding villages. Materials available in the rural settings are used for construction. New experiments are also going on to provide maximum efficiency to the locally available materials. In different parts of the country, creative experiments in the field of education are gaining momentum both in higher education and basic education.
86 गांव में 5477 बच्चे पढ़ते हैं जिनको हमने लिया है। उसमें 7 गांव ऐसे हैं
जिसमें एक भी बच्चा शिक्षा से बाहर नहीं है। गांव के जितने 6 से 14 साल के बच्चे हैं सबके सब स्कूल में है। अभी हमारी कोशिश ये 86 गांव में भी इसको चलाना कि एक भी बच्चा गांव शिक्षा से बाहर न रहे। लेकिन सरकार ने हमको इस काम के लिए 3,750 बच्चों के लिए 8 लाख रुपया दिया था। हमारे पास 5,477 बच्चे हैं। और फिर हमने पिछले साल हमने शुरू किया इस ख्याल से कि वहाँ रात की में देखते नहीं, नाइट ब्लाइंडनेस है, उस रोग को मिटाने के लिए हमने बच्चों को सब्जी के 10-10 बीज एक एक बच्चे को और 3-3 पपीते के पेड़ दिया कि तुम लोग घर में लगाओ और उसका जो पैदा हो तुम लोग खाओ। लेकिन बाद में जब उसका हम लोग हिसाब लगाने गए तो उसमें 7,09,000 रुपया उत्पादन हुआ, जिसका हम लोगों ने ठीक से हिसाब नहीं रखा। लेकिन इस साल हम लोगों को ख्याल है कि जितना हमने 8 लाख रुपया लगाया है तो शायद 10 लाख रुपया उत्पादन हो जाएगा। तो इस तरह से शिक्षा को, गांधी जी का जो मूल विचार था कि शिक्षा गांव में स्वावलंबी चले, उसका एक नया आयाम वहाँ खुल रहा है। अगर हम रचनात्मक काम को सही ढंग से करें, और ये मैं आपको ऐसे क्षेत्र की बात कर रहा हूँ जहाँ आज भी लिटरेसी माने साक्षरता 14.4% है। ऐसा पिछड़ा हुआ इलाका में जब इतना शिक्षा स्वावलंबी हो सकती है तो ये माने सारे देश में ये चीज़ चल सकती है, ऐसा लगता है।
Before we teach a child, we have to learn the child. Gandhiji says, I have therefore come to the conclusion that books are required more for the teachers than for the taught. Real education has to draw out the best from the boys and girls. Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan adds that education should basically expose one to his own culture, take him to the depths of it, and also it should break all the boundaries.
To break boundaries of religion, of ideologies, of isms in intellectual thought, in generations, amongst and between the arts, between the old and the young, the literate and the illiterate.
Experiments in non-formal education give a stir to the creative abilities of the child. Ranga Prabhat Thiruvananthapuram is devoted to educate the children through cultural programs based on rural and folk art forms. Interaction of children from different parts of the country has paved the way for a cultural synthesis and sharing.
हम सबको नाटक में एक साथ काम करते हैं, ऐसा लगा कि नाटक की भाषा एक है।
अलग अलग राज्य के बच्चे भी इस थिएटर में आके हमसे बात करते थे। हमें ऐसा लगता है कि हमें कोई डिफिकल्ट नहीं है इन बातों करने में।
केरल से आए बच्चों का डांस म्यूजिक और हमारे यहाँ का डांस म्यूजिक एक जैसा है, बिल्कुल भी अलग नहीं है। थिएटर में काम करते हुए हमें बिल्कुल भी दिक्कत नहीं होती, बहुत अच्छा लगता है।
Gandhiji was highly influenced by Professor Huxley on his definition on education. That man, I think, has had a liberal education who has been so trained since childhood that his body is the ready servant of his will and does with ease and pleasure all the work that as a mechanism it is capable of. Such a one and no other has had a liberal education, for he is in harmony with nature.
The wonderful thing about this was that the children were happy. There have been lots of reports afterwards in which everybody who saw these schools was obliged to report that these children looked happier, they were more resourceful, they were healthier in physical sense, and they were more cooperative.
Value-based education and exposure to Gandhian ideals and principles can make drastic changes in our educational system. Character building has the first place in our ancient school system. A building erected on that foundation will last.
In this school, the basis was that education should be given through a handicraft. In other words, through any productive activity which is meaningful and which also can encourage self-sufficiency for children and help their families to develop that. The second thing was that education should not be only through the craft, it should also be through the process of living. That means the community was a center of education. And for that, it was absolutely important that the means of communication, or in other words, the medium of instruction should be mother tongue, or the language of the child. The third thing, which was very important, was that that nature of which we are integral part should also be a means of education, should also be a center of education.
Gandhiji was of the opinion that if a vocational training in keeping with their surroundings was given to the children, that would be of some use in later life. Now Divya and Pooja, students from Cambridge School, New Delhi, explain why they undergo vocational training-oriented education.
We enjoy doing all these things and they help us to channelize our energies fruitfully. In our school, we have been told to value and respect human labor, and we feel that our hands are our best tools. Also, Gandhiji said that human labor has to be respected and the mind and the body have to work in unison.
Besides bookish knowledge, we need other things also. All individuals cannot work with their mind, but almost everyone can work with their hands. So these activities help us to channelize our potentials, which would otherwise go wasted had these activities not been there.
Gandhiji says, I would develop in the child his hands, his brain and his soul. The hands have almost atrophied. The soul has been altogether ignored. I therefore put in a plea for correcting these grave defects in our education.
हमारे पास तीन चीजें भगवान ने दी हैं शरीर में, the head, the heart and the hand. हाथ, दिल और दिमाग है, the head and the heart and the hand. इन तीनों में अगर तालमेल नहीं है, तब फिर वो शिक्षा जो है वो खाली क्लर्क पैदा करेगी और नुकसानदेह साबित होगी. इधर भूदान आंदोलन के सिलसिले में जब मैं देहात में घूमता था तो एक बड़े काश्तकार से मिलना हुआ. मैंने कहा कहिए क्या हाल है, कै लड़के हैं? बोले 4 लड़के हैं. मैंने कहा कहाँ हैं? तो बोले बड़े लड़का तो डॉक्टर है, इलाहाबाद में प्रैक्टिस करता है. और मैंने कहा दूसरा कहाँ है? बोले दूसरा जो है उसको मैंने एक दुकान करवाई है. तीसरा कहाँ है? बोले वो तहसील में नौकरी करता है. और चौथा बोले भी छोटा है. तो वो बोले साहब शिक्षा का नतीजा ये है, थोड़ा पढ़ा हल छोड़ा, ज़्यादा पढ़ा घर छोड़ा. ज़्यादा पढ़ाई हो गई तो घर छोड़ दिया, थोड़ी पढ़ाई हुई तो खेती करना छोड़ दिया. तो बताइए, जब बच्चे, हमने तो खेती की, हमने हल चलाया, और अब बच्चे हमारे खेती नहीं करेंगे, हल नहीं चलाएंगे, हम मजदूरों के ज़रिए से खेती कराएंगे तो खेती कैसे पनपेगी, गल्ला कितना होगा, हमको क्या मिलेगा? बोले हमारी खेती चौपट हो जाएगी. तो बोले ये बोले उन्होंने खुद ही कहा, बोले ये इस तालीम का नतीजा है कि तालीम काम से अलग कर देती है. गांधी जी ने इस मर्ज को पहचाना.
Gandhiji's educational system was an experimentation. It was an original experiment. And for India of those times, it was of great importance because he presented the idea of educating the people who are completely illiterate at that time. Even today, considerable proportions of our people are illiterate. and he thought that the best way to educate them is through teaching them crafts, some industry, some things to do with their hands, but he had a very intelligent, very original system of education woven around work, and that is relevant even today. But as regards higher education, we have to build upon the foundations laid by Gandhiji in yet original ways. I agree that if we had followed the educational system elaborated by Gandhiji, we would not have had so much unemployment, so many people wandering around to find jobs, and we would have by this time 100% literacy, and women would have been literate and educated. It is in the realm of elementary and secondary education we have completely failed, and this failure would not have occurred if we had followed Gandhiji's system of basic education. We can still go back to that. I think to a considerable extent they are still relevant. But I want to say that Gandhiji did not want our people to ignore science and technology.